Hi there and welcome to this brief instructional video on how we change over an old lever type flush to a new push button dual flush unit. I hope you enjoy it. Right, so the first thing we need to do is turn off the water supply. We're very lucky because we've got a nice little shut-off valve just here. Now we pop the lid off the toilet and pop that to one side and flush the loo. Try and really get as much water out as you possibly can. In the bottom of the cistern now you should have about an inch's worth of water. What we need to do is just get a towel and towel all of that out into the loo. Do that for as long as you can. Get as much of the water out as possible. Once you've completely emptied the cistern, you usually find there's two screws that hold the cistern back to the wall. Get yourself a screwdriver and undo those now. Now we remove the old handle assembly. This is usually held by a back nut on the back to hold the handle nice and tight to the toilet cistern. And to attach the handle to the flushing mechanism, you usually have a screw just here. Once you remove the screw, you should be able to wiggle off the arm, then unscrew the nut and remove the old handle. Now this is the tricky bit. Because we've got here a close coupled cistern, underneath here we have a clamp with two wing nuts. What you need to do is get underneath the toilet, take off both of those wing nuts by unwinding them. You might need some sort of lubricant to do this if they've been on for a while, and keep those wing nuts and washers to one side. Sometimes if you're unlucky, you might have to cut them off and replace the bolts. Once you've either cut off or nicely removed the wing nut, all you need to do is slacken off and remove the water supply that you valved off earlier. Do that using a set of grips and a pair of adjustables. Now we've got those done, just lay down a couple of pieces of cloth. You should be able to lift your toilet off here. If there's still any water in the bottom of the cistern now's a good time to pick it up and either pour it down the bath or the sink or the toilet. So now we're at the mucky end of the job. What I'm going to do is just remove each one of these screws and remove the one that we cut a minute ago because we're going to replace that in a minute. Now that we've got those two screws off, we're going to just slacken off this nut here and we're going to keep the donut attached to its metal clamp. Now we should just be able to lift this clamp off nice and gently without damaging the donut. Pop this to one side. Now we should easily be able to remove the old flush unit. And there we go, there's our old ancient flush unit out of the way. You can now throw this away. So then, now we unpack our new flush unit. We've got a washer here that if the hole on the outlet here is bigger, this will actually convert our washer so it will fit in different size cistern holes. We've got our button, nice push button. We've got our flexible cord that goes to the button, and then we've got our flush unit itself. On here we've got a nice new nut and a lovely new rubber washer at the bottom. We've also got an integral overflow built in, so if the water level rises too high due to a failed valve, the water will flow down here and into the toilet, thus eliminating the need for an external overflow outside of the house. We've also got a really innovative way of gauging how much water comes out when you want to do a flush. This is for the half flush here. Usually what I'll do is I'll set that to 5, and then on the other side we've got our full flush here, and what I'll usually do is set that to around 3. They're just easy to do, just push them in, and then after you've installed the toilet for a little while, you can move these about easily from above to get the type of flush that you desire. What we need to do now is we will install our flush unit so the overflow is the opposite side to the fill valve here. So if you watch carefully now, that's how I'm doing it. So we'll just pop that in. Make sure that our rubber washer is already on and nicely seated. Make sure very quickly that the seat on the inside that the rubber's going to sit on is nice and clean. Pop that in there like so. Now we get our donut and metal washer that we put to one side. Pop that back in. Then pop our new nut on. All you need to do is grab yourself a pair of grips and just tighten that up a little bit. Doesn't need to be a lot. Now we've got that tightened up, just going to put my 2 new bolts in here. Now we're ready to pop the cistern back onto the toilet. Make sure that your screws line up with your holes. Once you've got your cistern back on the wall, you can go about redoing up your wing nuts on the bottom, making sure that they're equally done up so you get a nice seal on the bottom. You can then put your 2 screws back in at the top, and lastly reattach your water supply. Now before we continue much further, make sure that the ball valve or any fill valves aren't hindered by the new flush unit you've installed. The next thing you need to do is remove the packaging from the button and remove that from the mechanism using the small clip. Then you can remove the nut from the button and actually attach the button itself to the front of your cistern. Once you've done that, you can pop the mechanism back on, turn the water back on and watch the cistern fill up. Right then, so we've got everything ready, we've got a button on here. Now we can test the flush and make sure we've got no leaks. Here we go. Great, so there we go, we've got no problems. Now all we need to do is pop our lid on, give everything a wipe down and a clean, and we're done. You can also change your old type lever valve siphon unit, like this one we've got in here, to a modern dual flush valve unit that has half and full flush and uses the same technology as the push button flush inside here. Simply lift up for a half a flush and down for a full flush. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.